Maybe give folks a couple minutes.
Okay. Hi, Donna. I see you. Thanks for coming. All right, it's a little after 7, so let's go ahead and get started. I just want to say hello and thank you and welcome to our first annual parent-focused event here for Saturday Academy. Our topic tonight is Rube Goldberg Design Challenge. My name is Sandy Jewell. I'm the classes coordinator for Saturday Academy. And while I'll be doing most of the presenting this evening, this is by and large a team effort. And I have an amazing team at Saturday Academy, and quite a few of them are here this evening that are helping out. So I'd like to introduce those folks to you. So first of all, I'd like to introduce you to Jackie Wers. She's our executive director. She'll be helping facilitate some questions this evening at the end. And then next, I'd like to introduce Rachel, Pecor Valdez. She's our programs and outreach director, and she'll be facilitating the chat this evening. Also, we have Walter Sebaste, and he is our IT and Ops associate, and he will be helping us out with any tech issues that happen this evening. So I also want to introduce you to not somebody from Saturday Academy, but somebody from my household who's been a great help this week. My daughter Mackenzie is here. She's going to be my camera operator a little bit later and has also been a part of the team for helping design the Rube Goldberg machine, which is actually right behind me. So I also want to let everybody know tonight that this webinar is being recorded. So, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and advance my slides here, I think. Let's see. My slides are not advancing. I'm going to stop share, I think, and then try that again, actually. So, all right. And Hang on here, let me get my mouse down to the right spot.
While
There.
Sandy is getting her slides back up, in the chat, can anyone tell me if they've ever built a Rube Goldberg machine before? And if you have, tell me what the goal of the machine was.
Hey, I built one a couple of weeks ago with my kids who were on the webinar with me. It seems like this might be a parent-focused webinar, and I didn't realize that. I guess I didn't read closely enough. But we built one to try to get a basketball to fall into a hoop.
How'd it go?
All right.
It was challenging. We had like this little string attached to a fan that had to hit something, and it was really hard to get it to hit the right thing. And then that triggered some dominoes and some cans falling and some rubber bands shooting and mouse traps setting. So we found some interesting things to work with, but it was hard to actually get it to work.
They are hard to get to work, that is for sure.
And I'll jump in too to say, kids are very welcome. We miss you. It's good to see you all here.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi, welcome. All right, hopefully you guys are seeing the next slide in my presentation. Give me a thumbs up, awesome, thank you. All right, so just to give you a little overview of tonight's agenda, we've had our welcome. We'll do a little introduction here. I have an icebreaker for all of you guys to participate in if you'd like. I also have a brief introduction about Rube Goldberg himself. And then we'll start to get into the science of it all. And we'll talk about the process that Kenzie and I used to design our Rube Goldberg machine. We will show you how it works. Hopefully it'll work. Keep our fingers crossed that that'll happen for us tonight. We've tested it a lot, so we know it does work. It's just like one of our guests was saying, sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. So we'll keep our hopes up for tonight. I also have some ideas for extensions and more science possibilities if you want to extend to a higher grade. I have some resources to show y'all tonight. I have a challenge to extend to you as well, and then we're gonna finish it all up with some question and answers. So if you have questions, feel free to type those into the chat. Rachel's gonna monitor that, so if there's anything really urgent, she can let me know. And if not, we can answer those at the end. All right. So to give you a little background about me, who am I and why am I doing this webinar? So professionally, I am a 20-year educator in the Portland metro area. I've worked as a sub and a classroom teacher and a scientist in residence, and I've also been an educator at OMSI. I have worked in program coordination for about the same amount of time at OMSI and now at Saturday Academy. And I'm also a STEAM enthusiast. I pretty much love everything about science, technology, engineering, art, and math. I can't say I'm the best at technology and math, but I'm still an enthusiast about those things and I still like learning about them. Personally, I am a parent like a lot of you are out there. I'm working online from home, just as many of you guys probably are too. In fact, I have only worked for Saturday Academy online. So I was hired and then onboarded online, and actually have only really met about half the staff in person. So I love all the people I work with, but missing that connection a little bit has been, it's been interesting. And so, you know, we've been doing the best we can with that. So someday we'll all meet each other and work in the same office once again, and that will be great. I, like I said, have a daughter, so we're managing online education from home, which means managing schedules and workloads, trying to figure out our Wi-Fi bandwidth and if we can all be on meetings at the same time, or if we drop, who has priority in meetings. So all sorts of lovely things with online ed. And then just dealing with 2020. So it's been a heck of a year with the pandemic. isolation, social and political unrest is going on. We've had fires. We live in Clackamas County, and we're very close to evacuating our homes back in September. Luckily, didn't have to, and everybody's safe, but definitely a very scary experience, just adding to the general excitement of the year for sure. So why are we doing this webinar? The big piece is connection. So, and that actually has two parts to it. Saturday Academy usually is just, we've been having programming for students who are in 2nd through 12th grade, and we would like to expand that. So this is our first attempt to expand our audience out to parents. And we just really want to be able to connect with a larger audience. So you guys are an experiment this evening in doing so. Also, we want to help you connect with your children with science. So it's definitely a fun thing that can be done at home since we're all stuck there right now. And we have maybe some holidays or family time coming up. So maybe this is something you can incorporate during those days as well. I think science can be fun. So it's not always, you know, textbooks or lab coats or words you can't pronounce. Science is in everything that you do. If you're cooking, if you're gardening, no matter what you're doing, you can definitely find some science in it. And it's really, I find it fun to share with my daughter, who has learned a lot of science in her 14 years. So I've also had some past experience with the Rube Goldberg competition. When my daughter was in 4th grade, her teacher entered her class into the competition that year. And I think the goal for that year was to open an umbrella. And so I was able to work with about 30 4th graders with another parent who is a science educator. And we just worked with the kids and took over the book room of her elementary school and made a Rube Goldberg machine, which was just really a fantastic experience. And to top that off, they came in 10th place in this worldwide competition, which was amazing. So it was just a really fun experience. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that as we get a little farther into our presentation. All right, so now I want to check in with you guys. So I was in a different webinar a few weeks ago, and they had this icebreaker. And I just really, I don't know, I thought it was really creative, and I thought I would share it with you all. So this is a blob tree, and it has several blobby people on it that are numbered. And as you can see, they're all feeling and doing different things. So if I were going to let you know how I was feeling on the blob tree, I think I would have to pick way more than just one number. So I could tell you right now, I feel 15 because I'm really excited about this webinar. But I also feel a little 12. So I don't normally talk to large groups of adults. Usually I talk to large groups of kids. So this is a little nerve-wracking for me. Luckily, I'm not a 3 yet, so we're gonna, have high hopes that that's not gonna happen this evening. I could also tell you I feel 18, 20, and 21 because I feel like this has really been a team effort. And I'm hoping by the end of the evening, maybe I'm a 9. So if you guys wanna take a look at our blob tree here, tell us how you're feeling. You could be one number, you could be a bunch of numbers like I am. And if you feel comfortable, add a word in the chat that tells what brought you here tonight for this webinar. So I'm going to kind of turn it over to Rachel for now because she's going to monitor the chat for me and just hear what all you guys have to say.
All right, we have Jackie who's feeling blob 20 with her family, also blob 13, 2020, blob 13. How are you all doing out there on the blob tree? We've got an 11. 13, an 8, a 45, altogether number 3, an 18, an 11. We've got a 1 climbing on up, and a blob 13 on our way up. Yay, blob 16 holding on but stable, yes. Came with curiosity, awesome. We love curiosity. Got an 11, blob 16. 12, 13, and 8 hanging in there. Hang on tight. And 9. Love this. We are all up and down this blob tree doing blobby things. 11 and 15. Yay, thank you everyone for weighing in. Curious reaching out. Thank you, Donna. 20 and a 15, a 9 and a 10. Got a 9, yay. 10, yep. 11, yes. Love this. Thank you. You can continue to blob out here as we go.
All right, thank you guys for sharing. It's really nice to connect with people that way. And I have to say, I hear you. I'm feeling lots of numbers on a daily basis. So yeah, so let's continue. So first of all, I wanted to talk a little bit about actually Rube Goldberg himself. I'm not sure that a lot of people know very much about him. They're more familiar with his cartoons, which I have an example right here. So Rube Goldberg is famous for his cartoons showing how to achieve normally simple tasks in a complicated manner. So here we have a cartoon called Self-Operating Napkin. So this depicts evidently a wearable device that can wipe a person's face with a napkin in about 12 alphanumerated steps. So it starts with A down there around where his spoon is and works its way all around this contraption until we get to the letter M. So I'm gonna have you take a peek at that while I tell you a little bit about Rube Goldberg himself. So Rube Goldberg was born in San Francisco in 1883. And when he was a kid, he loved art and was able to take professional drawing lessons as a child, and actually really wanted to continue with that as he was growing up. But his father advised him that engineering might be the way to go for a career. So he actually went to UC Berkeley and got a degree in engineering. And this is the part I love the most, is that he worked for the city of San Francisco as an engineer for 6 months, and then quit and became a cartoonist to follow his passion. So I don't want you to quit engineering necessarily, but you can use your engineering skills to do other things too. So what also is really cool is that because his love for art and cartooning, he actually won the Pulitzer Prize for political cartoons in, I think, 1948. So a little history about the man. And then let's shift over to the science part of it. So this is kind of where Rube Goldberg meets the science. And you know, you can just build a Rube Goldberg machine to build a Rube Goldberg machine, and it's fun, but I want to show you guys how to add a little science to that. And this is just one way you can do it. This is the approach that Kenzie and I took. I'm kind of all about the scientific process. So this is one model. So it has 6 steps in it. Some have 4, some have 8, just kind of depending on which one you look at. So we have observation, question, hypothesis, experiment, analysis, and conclusion. And one thing I really love about this model is that it's a circle. So a lot of scientific process diagrams are in a line. And that makes me think that once I get to the conclusion, I'm done. And I can tell you that, in my opinion, I don't think science is ever done. And especially when you're working through this process, when you come to your conclusion, I feel like it leads to more observations and more questions. So you really can just kind of keep going with this process. Also, what I'm talking about tonight, you can, it matches well with the next generation science standards. So what I'm doing tonight is mostly geared for elementary, but again, you can ramp that up into middle school and high school, or you can even do it with younger kids too, and just, you know, take just little elements about this whole process. So the big standards that this meets for the elementary level is engineering and design for grades 3 through 5, forces and interaction for grade 3, and energy for grade 4. And if you're interested in finding out more about the next generation science standards, I included the website down below. You guys will get these slides at the end of the night in a PDF in an email that I will send you. So if you're interested in looking up what schools are using as standards for science these days, that would be a good place to get started. All right, so I'm going to walk you through the process that Kenzie and I took on our Rube Goldberg journey. So we started with our observation or our problem, and that is I need to add ambiance to my office space and more amusement to my workday. Like I said, I've been working from this office in this chair for the past 8 months, and sometimes this room gets a little, you know, static. So we want to add some fun to it. So we turned that into our question, which was, can we add ambiance with a touch light and add amusement by turning on the light without directly touching it? This led to our hypothesis, which had some constraints. So our hypothesis is that we can build a Rube Goldberg machine that will turn on the light using only materials from home, built on the wall to keep our 2 cats out because they're very curious, using 10 plus steps, at least 1 gnome, that's for you, Jackie, and our time frame was to build it in 1 afternoon. So we did a lot of experimenting during that afternoon. We had to test a variety of different types of balls. We had to make sure to figure out their weight. A lot of them were very, very bouncy and would not stay on our Rube Goldberg surface. So it was kind of a lot of trial and error there. We decided after running some experimentation that we needed to tape down 1 edge of all our dominoes so our domino chain would fall properly. Our machine back here behind me is on some shelving, which is very slippery. So our dominoes weren't falling correctly. So we had to make some accommodations for that. We had to reinforce our ramp structure several times. We started out with just taping it to the wall, but it wouldn't stay. So now it's reinforced with paper towel and toilet paper tubes, which isn't quite ideal, but it works. So we're gonna hold with that for right now. We had to test what would overcome the weight of a roll of duct tape. And we started with wind-up toys and some other different toys that had motion in them, but none of them seemed to work. So we have a giant hex bug that will be starting us off this evening. And then we started thinking about our process from the beginning and where we want to start it. But then we were like, but wait, we have to figure out if, you know, the steps are going to work from the end. And so we ended up just engineering it backwards. And so that's kind of, those are like the big experiments that we did and tests that we did while we were going through our building process. So our conclusion was, yes, we can make this work. And in a minute here, we're going to take a closer look. And then we'll talk about iteration in the next slide. As we take a closer look at the Rube Goldberg machine, I'm going to ask you guys to keep an eye out for Newton's laws of motion, types of energy that you see, and simple machines. So I'm actually going to go over those real briefly before I show you the machine in depth. So if you're not quite sure what those are, or if it's been a long time since you've thought about them, I'll go over those real briefly. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then we're going to switch some cameras around a little bit here. So bear with us for this process. And let's see, so I'm going to stop sharing. I am going to mute myself. And unmute. And then you should be able to switch the camera. Okay. All right, and I'm going to bring my notes over here so I remember to talk to you guys about everything. All right. So first of all, we're going to go over Newton's laws of motion really briefly. First law is that objects in motion stay in motion. Objects at rest stay at rest until a force acts upon them. So if we take a look at our Rube Goldberg machine right here, as you can see, everything is at rest. Nothing's moving and no force is acting upon it. So to talk about motion staying in motion, so we're going to start up here eventually. So here's our hex bug. So when I turn on our hex bug, it travels down our shelving unit here. It will hit the duct tape roll and then continue to move until we get to the dominoes. So it would keep going, but the force that's going to stop them is the fact that the dominoes are taped down at the end and will not slide off the end of the shelving unit with the ball. So that'll be the force that's stopping our motion from happening. The second law of motion is a little tricky and hard to explain, but when I explain it to kids when I'm teaching to them, I tell them that it's the equation force equals mass times acceleration. So I'm going to go back to the hex bug here. So if you think of an object and the force it can create, you have to think about its mass and how fast it can go. So like I said before, we had to figure out how to get this tape roll to move. And we started out trying just wind-up toys. So this wind-up toy has a lot less mass than our hex bug. But since it's a wind-up toy, it doesn't have a lot of acceleration. So it loses acceleration quite quickly because it is a wind-up toy and the mechanism in it slows down. This keeps going because it's powered by a battery. All right. Third law of motion is that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. And we can take a look at probably our lever right here. So Kinsey can go a little closer. So a lever is a simple machine. You can think of it as a seesaw or a teeter-totter. And so as our Rube Goldberg machine gets going, at one point the ball will push the gnome off the shelf down onto this part of our lever. And so the force that he brings with him down on the lever this way will push up at an equal and opposite reaction this way that will move our tennis ball onto our touch light down here. Okay. All right. So types of energy, that was the other thing I was asking you guys to take a look at. There are so many different types of energy. It's kind of hard to list them all here, but like there's nuclear, there's solar, there's wind, but tonight we're going to be looking at 3. So we have electric energy happening with our hex bug up here. So it has a battery in it. It will complete the circuit when I turn it on and start its motion down the pathway here. We have a lot of potential energy, and that can be seen with our precariously perched gnome right here. We have a ball on the edge of the shelf right there, and then we have our tennis ball near the edge here. So they're poised with energy. They just need a little bit of help from our initial motion up here. Okay. And then we have kinetic energy, which is the energy of motion. So once we get this whole thing started, you will see how the energy is transferred from one thing to the other. Whew. And yeah, it'll just be one really quick motion transferring from one object to another until our goal is made down here by turning on this light. Okay. And then simple machines was the last thing I wanted to talk about before we actually give this a try. We really wanted to put in a lot of simple machines. We have 2. So we have an inclined plane here on our ramp. And then we have our lever, which is right here. We really wanted to put in a pulley. And so I'm gonna go to iteration really quick for you guys a little bit. What we really, really wanted to do was add a pulley where we could start the hex bug, put an additional gnome right here to hold the hex bug back, and then hook it up to a pulley where we could pour marbles in a cup, and the gnome would go up and the marbles in the cup would come down. So, but we realized as we tried to put this together that we don't have an adequate pulley system with at-home supplies. So, and we'll talk more about iteration in just a minute. All right, so I think I've gone over all the things I wanted you to take a peek at. Let me know if you see some more examples as well. And then I think we're ready to go. Okay, so like I said, we've tried it. It does work most of the time, so we'll see if we get it tonight. So we're gonna put the hex bug up here. It's gonna hit the, I'm gonna turn this off while I explain this. It's gonna hit the tape roll. It's gonna roll along to the dominoes. Dominoes are going to transfer energy to the wave ball. Wave ball is gonna run down the ramp, hitting the gnome. The gnome is gonna fall off the shelf, hit the lever, which will push the tennis ball off the shelf and hit our touch light and hopefully light it up. Okay, so let's give that a try. Hit it. All right. On the first try, that was really awesome and very surprising. I thought we were going to have Murphy's Law tonight instead of Newton's laws of motion. So anyway, let's turn that guy off. And so that was our Rube Goldberg machine. So we're going to switch cameras back. So if you will be patient with us here for just a second. All right, and then let me share my screen again. All right, and then are you guys looking at my slides again? No, because I didn't push the share button. There we go. Now are you looking at my slides again? Okay. All right, so this was a walk through our process. Oh, and it's not advancing again, hang on. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. Going to go to here, here, slideshow. And then
Somebody needs to make a Rube Goldberg for Zoom and see if we can get some of these transitions to work in at least much more entertaining ways.
all right, I know there's probably a better way to do this, but let's try here. And we're still not, okay. Sorry, people at home. We are
So while Sandy's working on the technical side of things, can I ask people who have built Rube Goldberg machines before, How many iterations until you got your first one to work? Let's see what those iteration numbers are like. Type it into the chat box.
All right, Rachel, are we getting some things in the chat?
And so, Sandy, we're seeing the presenter's version of the slides.
You're seeing the presenter version?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, ways to
What I mean, sorry to interrupt, what I
Oh.
mean by that is that we're seeing like notes and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Huh, because that's not what I'm seeing.
If you're using two different screens, you can sometimes choose which screen is the one you're sharing.
I did. Let me try that again.
So Jonathan, I am so curious how you do a Rube Goldberg with photosynthesis. Was that
Ooh.
you?
Yes, it is. I photosynthesis. I teach high school and freshman biology. Trying to teach photosynthesis and cellular respiration is really quickly getting down in the weeds and makes kids get bug-eyed. And so I start with having them design a Rube Goldberg device. Pretty simple. I keep drawers of random things and I say, here, go. Just so that anytime I'm going to get stuck, I just say, remember, it's about the transfer of energy. We're trying to move energy from here to there, to there, to there. There's lots of steps along the way. And so they do things. One of the ways to avoid, but it worked when I did it last time, is all like students have phones and they are happy to video themselves. And they just that has now how they turn in their work. Hey, just put that video into the Google slideshow that I gave you so I can watch them later, and we watch the good ones. So
That's amazing. And there will be a shout out to anyone that does video their Rube Goldberg project to send it to us at the end here. We'd love to see that.
All right, I am not having any luck sharing my screen in full view. So I am just going to continue sharing in this view. And I apologize if you're seeing a lot of things. So ways to iterate or extend. So if you don't want to go through the whole scientific process, you could just really focus on Newton's laws if you want. If you want to extend, you could work through the scientific process and then also see where you can find as many different examples of Newton's laws as possible. So you can really either make this more simple or you can extend. You can see where you can identify places where you use different types of energy and where energy is transferred. You could even just focus on that too and not the scientific process. You can see if you can incorporate all the simple machines. So we only ended up with two, our lever and our incline plane, but there's more you can incorporate. You could do a wedge, a screw, a pulley, which we couldn't do, and a wheel and axle. So again, some more extensions, or if that's just what you really want to focus on, you could do that as well. You can definitely broaden the scope of your design. You could make a Rube Goldberg machine fill up your entire house if you want to. I've seen some examples of that. You can limit it to a room. You can limit it to a wall. So really, you know, you can either make it big or small. I feel like no matter how big or small it is, it's still definitely a lot of fun and can bring a lot of joy for sure. And you can always add more steps. So like I said, we really wanted to add a pulley. And I think if we had more materials, definitely we could do that. So we might leave it up for a little longer and see if we can do that. You can also change the materials that you use. Our ramp is real sketchy with the made out of cardboard. So I think when our Rube Goldberg machine fails, which does happen quite a lot, that's where it happens. So I would probably go back if I was gonna improve on our design and definitely make our ramp out of a different material. So Kenzie and I discussed using Legos because we figured that would be more solid. We could definitely play with the design a little bit. We could make it more sturdy, and I think it would fit really well on the shelves that we have it on currently. So you can change materials. You can also play with the timing. If you want to time your Rube Goldberg machine, you can make it go faster. You can, play with the angles to see if you can make it go faster, or you can see if you can slow it down. So definitely some things you can do there. If you are really inspired and you want to enter the 2021 Rube Goldberg competition, you can. It is open right now. And the challenge this year is to shake and pour a box of nerds. So every year, the end task is different. If you're really interested in finding out more about this, I have the website coming up here in just a minute. And then you just sign on the website, and then it'll tell you the different constraints and how many steps you need and all that kind of stuff, and you can enter. And the competition is for students and for families. So if you want to hang out with your family and make one all together, you can do that. All right. So that brings us to resources. So here I have a few. If you Google Rube Goldberg machines, you can go down a whole entire rabbit hole and spend an afternoon watching videos on this for sure. These have been my favorite. So the first one is OK Go's video, This Too Shall Pass. So it's very extravagant. It's probably not something you're going to make in your home. It involves throwing paint and looks very messy, but it's very fun and can give you some really good ideas. Some other YouTube sites that you can also spend a lot of time looking at are Joseph's Machines and Sprice Machines. They use materials that are a little bit more accessible that you might be able to find around your house, but also very complicated machines as well, but they offer tons of good ideas. Another resource I wanted to tell you about was a piece that was done on the CBS Morning News probably about a month ago. And it's just a piece on how families have been building Rube Goldberg machines during the pandemic, and how some people say it's really saved them. And people have, and they had to like redo the whole Rube Goldberg competition because a lot of it's very acclimated towards students, and with no kids in school, they kind of had to change it up a little bit this past year and were able to add a family competition. So this piece is about 15 minutes, but it's very inspirational. It's a very sweet piece. The person who is kind of in charge of the competition, and that is Rube Goldberg's granddaughter. So she talks about her grandfather, and that's very kind of a touching piece to this too. So I encourage you to take a peek at that. And then the extra challenge is the worldwide Rube Goldberg competition for 2021. So if you have a package of nerds lying around your house, you can definitely make a machine that can shake it and pour it. So, you can pour it into a dish, you can pour it into your mouth. You have lots of different ways you could definitely go with that. So, like I said before, these slides and these resources will be emailed out after this presentation. So you'll have all this information if this is something you want to pursue. And then finally, I'd like to thank you guys for coming this evening. As you can tell, I'm a little nervous still, but I had a great time this evening, and I am now challenging you. So build your own Rube Goldberg machine. You don't have to open or shake and pour a box of nerds. It can do anything. But if you want to share it on your social media, you can tag @Saturday Academy on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter to get a discount code for a $15 winter break class. And then I've also included the link to our catalog. So just an extra challenge out there for you guys. And Yeah, I think that brings me to the end of my presentation, but we can definitely open it up for questions and discussion. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen again. All right.
And for questions, you're welcome to put them in the chat or go ahead and unmute yourself and talk directly.
So Sandy, you said that you and Mackenzie worked on this in an afternoon.
Mhm.
Do you think putting that time limit on it forced you to think differently about the problem?
I think, well, I mean, if we would have had just days and days to work on it, there would be several versions of this. And I have to say it was really hard not to work on it because it's been up for quite a while. And so like we're constantly thinking about, oh, we could do this, oh, we could do this. So having the time constraint, I think was kind of hard because we're both pretty creative people and we always want to like make things better and do more things. But we also didn't want it to be something that like was like all consuming either. And so that's why we set the time limit. And we just thought, okay, we're going to have to just be good with what we come up with. And so that's why we made the time constraint. But definitely, I think we could really spend a lot of time on this. All right. It looks like a lot of people now have some things to do during the Thanksgiving break, which is great. All right.
So we have a question here. How long does it take you to reset the machine, Sandy?
Because we're kind of at around like the 10th step, it doesn't take too long to reset. It depends what all has to be reset. Usually the ramp has to be reset before we do it again. And then finding where the balls went is the hardest part. And then also things fall down behind our CD rack over there, so we have to fish those out. So I would say those are the most time consuming things, but really, I mean, we can be ready to go probably in a couple minutes for this small of a machine.
Let's see, and as a follow-up, do you have to mark the spot for the gnome? How finicky is that gnome?
The gnome, no, we didn't really have a lot of problems with Homie. He has a name. His name is Homie the Gnome. We just precariously perch him there. So like I said, sometimes he's hard to find afterward if he falls behind the CD case. But the thing we definitely have to position is the lamp at the end, the touch light. So when we first started, we had it's stacked on a bunch of books and things right now. We had it a lot lower. And our rate of not hitting it with a tennis ball was really high. So we had to stack up our books and stuff a little higher to make that distance a little shorter so it was more accurate. So that's the thing we definitely needed to make sure that we marked and set. That was a good question.
And out of curiosity, how does one judge a winner of a competition?
So how would I judge it, or how did they judge it with the Rube Goldberg competition?
Let's start with the Rube Goldberg competition.
That's a really good question. I'm not sure. People send in their videos and I'm not sure if they have a panel of people that are looking at it. I know when we worked on it, when Kenzie was in 4th grade, there was quite a bit of criteria that needed to be met. So I think that was probably the first piece, to make sure that you had so many steps. I think there were certain things you had to include maybe. It's been a long time since 4th grade, so it's hard to remember. And then it had to complete the specific task, which was for us was opening an umbrella. So how they judge it for who is a winner, I'm not really sure. I would imagine they have some type of panel that does that.
It sounds like it has to do with the, meeting the specific constraints,
Mhm.
the end thing, having it work.
Yeah.
Great.
Ooh,
And
have I ever made another machine? Yes, we did in 4th grade because we were learning about, or sorry, Kenzie was learning about physics. I was helping. Yes, we made Rube Goldberg machines in our front room, definitely trying to practice. Yes, so we have done it before, and I can't guarantee that we won't do it again. So. Let's see.
I want to thank everybody for the thank yous, and just thank you for sharing your time this evening. Really appreciate it. And thank you, Sandy, for making this work. And yes, I need one to pour my coffee in the morning too.
Yes.
And maybe grind it too. I hand grind every morning.
Yes, if you're watching holiday movies and you watch Home Alone, there are definitely, there's a Rube Goldberg machine in that movie as well. So keep your eyes out for that.
If there's any questions that come up as you're building or that come up after this session, you can definitely reach out. Sandy, I'm going to share your email.
Okay.
It's pretty complicated. It's sandy@saturdayacademy.org.
And I'm the one that's sending you all emails, so feel free to reply.
It's a question about whether the magic 8-ball has been used in the Rube Goldberg device. Is that in your background?
Oh yeah, I do have a magic 8-ball. I have not used that yet, but challenge accepted. So. Oh, I didn't think about using that. It would roll. We could, yeah. Okay, the wheels are turning, I'm thinking. We're planning. All right, yes, please send us your final products. We would love to see them.
And if you're interested in more parent-focused webinars where we can explore different STEAM topics, just let us know.
And for all of you that are getting the resources afterward, it also comes with a survey. So you can enter your ideas on possible topics in that as well. So we'll get your information that way. Or feel free to email me. You can do that too.
And with that, thank you everybody once again. This is really fun. It's really good to see you. Thanks for jumping in, Jonathan, too, with your experience there. That was really cool.
Yes, thank you all for coming tonight. It was a lot of fun. It was really nice connecting with other people
Thanks,
too.
Maya.